Here we have the Raphidophora Decursiva, also known as Raphidophora dragon tails. Definitely very distinctive leaves here with the splits that we have on them. They'll get those splits as the plant matures. You need to give it really bright light to be able to accomplish this. But anyway, let's get into the care instructions for this plant. First things first, we're going to need very bright light, okay? So when we get down on the plant's point of view, these leaves need to be looking out at just a big wide view of the sky. You don't want the plant to be looking out at a covered patio or your neighbor's house or a giant mature tree. These really need to have that bright light, and to get that, they need that wide view of the sky. Now, if it's going to be a south or a west facing window, or just any window you know is particularly hot, let's back it off a couple of feet and make sure that it doesn't get burned. But kind of adjust the plant as you see healthy new growth or maybe stunted growth. Stunted growth would be that the light is not bright enough. Too bright of light or too hot would scorch the leaves, and you'd see some yellowing and some browning on the tips is usually how it goes. Next up, we'll talk about watering. I treat these a lot like philodendron in terms of their watering, except they're not quite as drought tolerant, I find. So throughout the entire year, I like to water this plant when it's about 25% dry. In this case, that's about an inch down into the pot, but that will change as your pot size gets larger. As far as soil mixture goes, if you're going to repot this plant, you want to do that when the roots start coming out of these bottom drainage holes. And then you just want to go up one pot size bigger. So this is a 6-inch pot. I would go up to a 7-inch pot, or even an 8-inch pot would be fine. The most important thing when repotting these plants is to make sure you give them a very chunky mixture. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of organic material that creates air pockets in there, like orchid bark or pumice or perlite. Even sand helps quite a bit, but really getting that chunky mixture in is going to help the roots get air and really thrive. And if you have too much of a moisture retentive soil, this plant is going to die from root rot. As far as fertilizing goes, I don't feed this plant a whole lot. It is a very fast grower. I like to use a general purpose, well-balanced fertilizer, 10-10-10, 15-15-15, or 20-20-20. The brand doesn't really matter. It's more about those ratios to stick with. But make sure we're only doing these fertilizers during the spring and summer months during their active growth period. When they're not growing in the winter time, when they go dormant, we don't need to be fertilizing these plants as much because they're more in a hibernation state and they're not going to be taking up or needing as many nutrients. They can't really use them. But that's going to do it for the care instructions for the Raphidophora dragon tails, a really pretty vining plant. These will do great to go up a trellis or a stake. Their leaves will get much larger if you give them something to climb up on. But if you have any questions, leave them down below.